Welcome to the Next News Network. It's a late night here in the studio once again, and you are with us in the overnight hours, and I'm glad you're here. Lots of drama in the LBC, kind of hard being Snoop D-O double G. Yeah, there's a lot of drama going on, guys, and not just in our chat room on Discord, but apparently all over X. I mean, we have the quartering, we have Tim Pool, we have Alex Jones. I don't know what's going on, and I don't really care to look. Not even going to pay it any mind. Personally, I don't think we should be all attacking each other because we have a bigger fight ahead of us. I'm talking about the midterms. But that's not all. Eric Swalwell has a big fight ahead of him, and tonight, that is going to be the focus of the program. Because late last night, I received word of the information that was dropped this morning. I've been processing the PDFs that were revealed by the White House, two specific declassified documents. One is about, I think about 40-something pages. The other one's about 95 pages. So there was a lot to process, a lot to digest. And of course, sorting that and organizing that so that we can have the information at our disposal to present to you tonight. And that's what is really important, is having the facts, having the information, and having the data and the truth to be able to present to you. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And this is truth that Eric Swalwell certainly does not want to get out. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, Eric Swalwell, he's gone. He's yesterday's news. Well, right now he's today's news. He's been the news all day. And the damage that man has done to our movement, to our president, to J6ers, there needs to be justice for that. And certain people need to be held accountable for enabling him and his activities for so long. And like anything in Washington, they always keep a blackmail list, a list of the things they know that you have done so they can control you. And that's very likely exactly what happened here with Eric Swalwell. He was an easily controllable asset. And they had the goods on him. And that's why he was always put out in front. Because if he didn't go out in front and do the bidding of his masters, then that information would come out. Well, the information is out now. And it is clear as day, black and white. There's no disputing it. Now, of course, we all know about Fang. We know about the affair, the romantic interludes, but new information has come to light that is going to finally bring some level of justice for those who have been harmed by Eric Swalwell's political career. And we don't know what the ultimate fallout will be. But the fact is that we all want justice. We want retribution. We want these things because we have been harmed. We are all victims of Eric Swalwell. And they say karma's a bitch, right? Well, that karma just swung really hard back at Eric Swalwell. First, of course, when he was forced to leave his post, hang up his campaign. That was the first part of that justice and that retribution. But now comes the second part. The part where we see exactly what he was doing. Not just with all kinds of different women, but with one specific woman and the deep ties to the Communist Party of China. Now, it's one thing to go ahead and do the bidding of your masters. because they have dirt on you. It's another to do the bidding of a communist dictatorship. Sleeping with the enemy. Taking campaign funds. Financial contributions. Placing interns in your own office at the behest of the Communist Party. How much did he know? When did he know it? These are all questions that will be answered. So as you settle in tonight in this late night broadcast, please keep in mind that we will be doing 3 separate segments on the document dump that came out tonight because there's just too much. And my source in Washington, D.C., I thank you for tipping me off to this information late last night, which then put me in an overnight frenzy to begin my research. After a long weekend in Rosemont, if you don't know what I was doing, you can check out some of my other social channels. You'll get an idea. Or maybe check out Adam Lowitz's recent posts on X, directed at Elon Musk. I think you might find them rather refreshing and enjoyable in light of all the crazy political news that we cover here. Because politics is really my big game. I do other things too, to decompress from this madness. So tonight we're going to unravel the story behind Eric Swalwell. We're going to unravel who was Fang. What was she doing? Why was she showing up to his house, his apartment, his front door, describing what she was or wasn't wearing? We're going to get in all these topics tonight. So make sure you got your popcorn, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe even a little bourbon. Grab a cigar, a cigarette, whatever it is, and let's begin. But we'll start first with our White House rundown. Because you guys need to know what happened in D.C. today, right? Besides the fact that I shaved my face. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, with everything that moved out of the White House in the last 24 hours, brought to you alongside our streaming partner, Trump Daily Post. Now, President Trump just delivered the largest prescription drug price drop in more than 60 years. He also brought a 16-year-old lifeguard into the Oval Office to shake the hand of the boy that was pulled out of the surf. Tax refunds are up 17%, and the First Lady brought another child home. And here is the day, hour by hour. In a White House statement this morning, First Lady Melania Trump reunited another child with their mother after the two were separated by the Russia-Ukraine war. That makes 34 children return to their families since she wrote her peace letter to Vladimir Putin. 34. No summit, no press tour, just kids going home. And from today's pool report, the president's schedule ran closed all day, executive time at 8, his intelligence briefing at 11, the Oval Office greeting at 1, and a policy meeting at 4. At 11:48, the press office called a lunch lid until 12:45. Then at 1:22, the pool got pulled from lower press and marched to the Oval Office. Once inside, President Trump recognized Ryder Williams, a 16-year-old California State Parks lifeguard who saved 10-year-old Nathaniel Rye from powerful waves at Seabright State Beach in Santa Cruz. Both boys stood there with their families and Santa Cruz public safety officials. Shane Williams told the room how proud he is of his son. The president turned and thanked Shannon Williams for raising him. At 2:12 p.m., staff ushered the press out after a Q&A that ran through foreign policy and the ballroom. Now here's what happened in between. President Trump said, quote, "I've never seen something quite like this," and kept steering reporters back to the lifeguards every time they tried to change the subject. He took questions on Iran and Oman. When a CNN reporter cut in, he called her disrespectful and fake news. And young Ryder Williams gave his own generation a line worth repeating: "Try to look out for everybody around you." The White House called a travel and photo lit at 6:22 p.m. this evening. And now the policy prescription drug prices in the country, they just posted their steepest annual decline since, ready for this, 1963. Down 3.9% since President Trump took office, with non-prescription drugs down 2.4%. The most favored nation deals cover roughly 86% of the branded market, and price on GLP-1s, fertility drugs, and insulin have been cut 50 to 90%. Trump RX has already saved patients $700 million. The VA banked over $10 billion in pharmaceutical savings this fiscal year alone. Every president since Nixon promised this, and only one of them did it. And total tax refunds are up 17% year over year off the working families' tax cuts. No tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Central Command Commander Admiral Brad Cooper also wrote in the Wall Street Journal about his visit to the USS Abraham Lincoln, more than 260 days at sea, over 150 of them in a combat zone. He said the food and hot water complaints the press ran have been fixed, and the crew is still one of the sharpest afloat. According to the daily guidance, Tuesday is going to run some closed press again. Executive time at 8, then policy meetings at 11 noon, 2:30, 4, and 5. Pool call time is 9 a.m. So the takeaway is simple. Quiet Monday on paper produced the biggest drug price drop in 6 decades. A 17% jump in refunds, 34 children home, and a teenager from Santa Cruz standing in the Oval Office next to the boy he saved. And that's your White House rundown. Now, let's get into the rest of today's top stories. And of course, as I mentioned, Eric Swalwell is at the top of that list. All right, so we're going to get into the news right now. Trump is raiding the Treasury. Really? Oh, is that right? Well, show me the money. What do you guys think? Gary Franchi shaved? What? My wife suggested that I do that this weekend. I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. All right, so we're going to jump into our first story of the evening. And yes, FBI file exposed. Page 63 says indicts Swalwell. What does that exactly mean? We're going to find out exactly. And you're going to be along for the ride. Brian, is there supposed to be a ticker clock on this prompter screen? Because I'm not seeing it. There it is. Thank you, sir. Obtains sufficient evidence to indict and arrest. That's the FBI's own written objective for an undercover operation aimed at Congressman Eric Swalwell. Page 63 of the declassified file. And on that same page, in the Bureau's own hand, the answer not met. Same page. Ask and answer. And we're going to pull it up. It was March 17th, 2014. That's the day the FBI opened a public corruption assessment naming a sitting congressman. 14 months later, they escalated to an undercover operation with a code name Freshman 15. 3 stated objectives. And here's why you need to see the paper and not somebody's summary of it. I want to put page 63 on screen and read the highlighted line myself. Then page 79, where the Bureau splits Swalwell from Christine Fang. And page 93, 2 very different sentences. We're going to be diving deep into Eric Swalwell's misdeeds, but the next bulletin never made the mainstream chyron. Open enrollment paperwork is moving again across the country, and millions of seniors overpaying for Medicare are about to renew plans that no longer fit them. Big insurance runs on that confusion, patriots. The mailers, the robocalls, the fine print, nobody finishes. Now the part they cut for your time. Yes, there's a newsroom for your Medicare. It's called Chapter. Independent Medicare advisors, the only advisors comparing every plan nationwide, not one carrier's slice of the market, all of it. Chapter reviews your doctor's prescriptions and reports back the truth. Already covered, right? Well, they'll confirm if you're already on the best plan on the record. If you're not, they'll help you switch plans. One call under 20 minutes and it costs you nothing. 910-728-4109. That's the number you see on your screen right there. Objective stated, objective met. And that's the story. Now, page 6, DOJ Point of Contact 2014, Chief Jack Smith. That's a line, that's all the line says. So that's all I'll say about it. But the pages that matter are objectives pages. And the answer is right next to it, and they don't need anybody's help. Let's go ahead and bring it all in for you now. These are the declassified records we've been pouring over. These are the exclusive documents. White House release FBI 56D SF 4662117 packet page 1 opening. LHM shows the Bureau opened a case titled Congressman Eric Swalwell, Corruption of Federal Public Officials, Legislative Branch, flagged as a sensitive investigative matter routed to the Public Corruption Unit. Now, of course, opening a case is not a finding of guilt, but these are the documents right here, page by page. Page 63 is the one that matters, the recommendation to indict Swalwell, and it never happened. White House release, same file. Later, full investigation into Swalwell's potential involvement in a scheme to collect illegal campaign contributions in exchange for official actions. FBI alleges Fang, Christine Fang, was the facilitator, and no charges were in fact cited. The Freshman 15 is the interim authority. That's the name. Maybe we'll pull it up so you can see the full document a little bit better here. Let's go ahead and show you that. So we'll bring it in a little closer. There it is, Freshman 15. You can see it. On 3/17/2014, FBI SF Special SF opened an assessment, subsequently converted to a full investigation concerning Swalwell, who was elected to represent 15th California District and reelected in 2014. Many of the contributions were made by foreign nationals and or utilized conduits in violation of federal law. In at least 2 cases, Fang used conduits to conceal herself as a prohibited foreign national source in violation of Title 52 U.S.C. Analysis of financial records demonstrated Fang orchestrated conduit campaign contributions to Swalwell's campaign at least twice in 2013, at least 2 more times in 2014. She stated she could arrange for an internship with Swalwell's office, but that internship would cost more money. Pay to play, right? So who buried it? Well, next up, the timeline of who had the file and when. FBI writes the case is predicated on information that internships in Swalwell's offices were promised in exchange for campaign contributions. This is the FBI's stated predication, an allegation, not a finding, though. Congressman Swalwell, corruption of federal public officials, legislative branch, sensitive investigative matter. Predicated on information that the internships in Swalwell's office were promised in exchange for campaign contributions as part of the scheme to purchase internships. Campaign contributions were conduited through third parties to mask the true identity of the donor, in some cases made by foreign nationals. Sensitive investigative matter, subject of a sitting U.S. congressman. The above facts and circumstances indicate the subjects and others yet unknown may be involved in a conspiracy in violation of several U.S. codes. Assistant U.S. Attorney Blank agreed to prosecute the matter should sufficient evidence be developed. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Northern District of California was advised of the sensitive circumstances in the case prior to the opening and written notification on June 10th. Provided sufficient evidence be developed. Well, who was that sitting Attorney General at the time? And that's the paper trail. Now watch what Swalwell himself said about Fang in the FBI briefing. Predicated on that information, Swalwell's offices were promised in exchange for campaign contributions allegedly conduited through third parties. So, and then you got to read this fine print here. Okay, that's the same document. He calls himself a victim, apparently. The counterintelligence agents who worked the case tell a very different story. Legislative branch, sensitive investigative matter, the open LHM went to DOJ public integrity. To Jack Smith. Right? Jack Smith. Really? Look at it right there. Chief Jack Smith. We all know what Jack Smith was tasked with later, right? U.S. Congressman Eric Swalwell, corruption, federal public officials, legislative branch, sensitive investigative matter. My goodness, I can't believe we're looking at these documents. Dissemination, this serial in weekly package for DOJ public integrity section. Wow. This was all going on behind the scenes. All these years. Going back to, what, 2014. So this was even before President Trump was ever in office. And this guy sat on House Intelligence the entire time. An FBI electronic communication date 10/16/25 documents determination and post-operational critique of Group 1 undercover operation Freshman 15. Full investigation initiated 5/30/2014. Let's see if we can bring this up in maybe a little bit better for you. To notify the Public Corruption Unit and Criminal Covert Operations, termination of Group ICO Freshman 15 and its document post-operational critiques. They were granted interim authority on the Criminal Undercover Operations Review Committee. Undercover activity ceased on a certain date. A total of blank was spent during the UCO. So they don't list how much the investigation cost. Again, this is the declassified Freshman 15 operation into Eric Swalwell. Now, why would the White House suddenly just begin releasing this? Access to the nation's secrets while a Chinese agent worked his campaign. Kash Patel. FBI files, new undercover operation. Lists 3 objectives. First, to obtain sufficient evidence to indict, arrest Swalwell and Fang for violations of campaign finance and quid pro quo exchanges. That's the objective, but not a finding, both listed as fully predicated subjects. So that is what they were aiming for. Fiscal circumstances, deposit funds exemption. 3 overall objectives: obtain sufficient evidence to indict and arrest, obtain sufficient evidence to indict and arrest any other identified co-conspirators on Swalwell and Fang, and seize forfeitable assets. There are 4 stipulations: review the evidence and information collected during the course of overarching investigation, and identify intel which is responsive to standing and local collection requirements. Where intelligence identified which is responsible to requirements, disseminate as appropriate via redacted. Seek separate approvals before conducting consensual monitoring involving sensitive circumstances. Man, this is what you are seeing here. This is the internal FBI investigation on a sitting congressman. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this. As far as intelligence, no products have been produced. 2 subjects, Swalwell and Fang, both of whom are fully predicated. Wow. New FBI files, undercover op, Freshman 15. Post-op critique lists the objective to obtain that evidence. So looking deeper, the overall objective is to obtain the sufficient evidence to indict and arrest. Okay, the introduction. Oh, here we go. During the meeting with UCE and blank, Fang made statements that were corroborative of other evidence. This was used to obtain search warrants for Fang's residence, her person, and her iCloud account. So she actually had to be interviewed by the FBI. Fang privately disclosed to blank that her suspicion that UCE, however, Fang suspected that she was under the investigation and that the undercover agent was in fact a government agent. So I mean, coming from the CCP, she could probably smell it a mile away. No further meetings occurred, and UCE's attempts to email correspondence with Fang were not returned. So she smelled it, she knew it was coming, and she ghosted the undercover operative. Subpoenas are one thing, prosecution another. Justice Department says, here's what they say about the statute of limitations. Investigation to date has not found violations of federal corruption statutes perpetuated by Swalwell. The Bureau retitled the case Christine Fang election law, saying it found campaign finance violations by Fang. DOJ's Richard Pliger concurred. So more on that here. Investigation to date not found violation. It was reclassified, resettled on February 18, 2017, pursuant to Section 23, the Public Corruption Unit redacted policy implementation guide. Blank something SA spoke with Richard Pliger within the Department of Justice Public Integrity Section, who concurred with the retitling and reclassification of the matter. So case was closed. Time ran out. But of course, there's another route, and a member of Congress lays it all out. The retitling, investigation date not found violations, revealed violations of campaign finance statutes by Fang, case retitled Fang election law. So they couldn't really find anything on Swalwell apparently, so they just retitled it, dropped Swalwell, and focused on Fang. So that was the initiation to change the title and classification that occurred in 5/30 of 2014. That's when it was initiated, pardon me. Okay. So that's the referral. Swalwell is still on committees, still cleared, still getting a paycheck. 5/24/17, Bureau writes investigation not reveal evidence of a quid pro quo exchange between Fang and the congressman or his office, but it did reveal evidence that Fang violated campaign finance laws. So they couldn't find the quid pro quo, but they did, in fact, discover the finance violations. Okay, so this case investigated whether Fang made illegal campaign contributions in exchange for internships with the official campaign office of a sitting U.S. congressman. While investigation did not reveal evidence of a quid pro quo exchange between Fang and the congressman or his office, it did reveal evidence that Fang violated criminal laws, prohibited contribution in the name of another in excess of statutory limits and from a foreign national, falsifying and destroying records, and false statements. Case closing. Here's a serial 175. FBI listed statutes under the investigation: false writing, bulk cash smuggling, acting as an unregistered foreign agent. No charges. The FBI writes Fang left the U.S., was barred from reentry, and SAC San Francisco has determined prosecution is non-viable due to national security reasons. So Fang left the United States, has been barred pursuant to security advisory opinions issued by the U.S. Department of State in consultation with San Francisco Division of Executive Management and U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District. SAC San Francisco determined prosecution non-viable due to national security reasons. Sufficient personnel and financial resources were expended on the investigation. All local and reasonable investigation was completed. All investigative method techniques and all set leads have been completed. All evidence has been returned, destroyed, or retained in accordance with evidence policy. So, page 79, it does something the headlines never do. It separates two people. No violations of federal corruption statutes by Swalwell. Campaign finance violations by Christine Fang. 2 findings, 2 names. Then page 93, no evidence of a quid pro quo. And page 94 calls prosecution non-viable on national security grounds. Read it as written, not as you want it. So declassify the rest of it is what I say. Every page, unredacted, let us read the answer next. To ask ourselves. That's the demand. Because the predication means is what they suspected. And not met means what they didn't get. And Washington has spent a decade counting on you never seeing those words sitting on just inches apart on paper. You've seen it. Now drop a comment with the page number that hit you the hardest and send this to a friend who only reads the headlines. And hit subscribe so the next file lands in front of you instead of getting buried. Paper beats narrative every single time, and paper is exactly what they keep locking up. You see, page 63 sat in a vault for 11 years. That's precisely the kind of thing we chase down for you. So text White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network is credentialed inside the White House. Reports pulled straight from that building land on your phone nightly, including the material we hold. Now, reading is rung 1. Rung 2 is having a post. Yes, text signal to that same number and listen to the Next News Signal Corps, and you climb as you work. Real ranks, real missions. An operations hub the legacy press just can't touch. So that's the first breakdown of the files that I received on Eric Swalwell, the FBI investigation, and Fang. We're moving into the next part of the investigation. I've got ideas for Gary, Vicky. Oh, you do. Everybody has ideas for Gary. How come no one has said anything about my beard? I shaved my beard. No, and maybe I missed the comments, but I think that I'm going to grow it back, though. And keep your eye out for some new formatted videos. We've got some new styles we'll be testing out. You might see some tomorrow. And I've got a huge interview that I'm doing tomorrow with a very famous author I think you will enjoy. So keep your eyes open for that when it drops. So what is on page 50? That's the question. We're going to find out. The FBI files. What does page 50 reveal on Eric Swalwell? And what was she or not wearing when she showed up at his door? I had physical relations with Christine Fangs on a handful of occasions. That's what Eric Swalwell said to that FBI agent. It's in the file the Trump administration just declassified, page 13, and FD 302, his own statement. And the Bureau's code name for Fang while they tried to flip her, they called her Rusty Thumbs. But page 50 is where a different witness talks. We're talking about Fang's own parents. They were known officers in China's Ministry of State Security. That's in the file. And a sitting congressman with a seat on the House Intelligence Committee told the FBI he skipped intern vetting because the applicants came through her civic group. My friends, that's the whole game. So tonight I'm putting the actual pages on your screen. Page 13, his own statement. Page 68, his second interview. And page 50 of the chronology, a different witness whose line changes how you read every headline that's been running today. See, Eric Swalwell sat in that Capitol briefing on April of 2015, and the American people found out 11 years later. That's how much warning you get from Washington, which is why I plan ahead with my money. We've got midterm elections coming up, control of Congress on the line, and markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility, and this could be the most volatile stretch for the stock market and the economy we've seen. Physical gold and silver hedge that volatility, and Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect your wealth with precious metals. Simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or just call that number on your screen. Call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347. Mention my name, and for America's 250th birthday, they'll send you a 10-ounce, that's right, 10-ounce silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Let's get back to what page 50 has to say. You see, we're talking about two separate interviews, May of 2015 and March of 2016. And both of them are Swalwell talking, not three witnesses, him, twice. So watch how the outlets stack it tonight, like the Bureau heard it from the room full of people, because here's how Lindell TV is reporting it too. We've got Kara Cashanova's take from the White House as well. But first, we jump to Swalwell admits it. FBI files catch him on page 50. FBI FD 302 interview report entry date 03/15/2016. Eric Swalwell was interviewed at the FBI's Oakland office at 2101 Weber Street with counsel present. Heavily redacted, you can see. The page records that the interview occurred, not what was concluded from it. File number 5D, 56D SF 4662117, serial 160. Let's take a closer look if we could see through all that black redaction, shall we? Eric Swalwell, with just his date of birth, was interviewed. He was there with his counsel. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents, the nature of the interview, Swalwell provided the following information. Black out. So they completely redacted. I mean, I thank the White House for releasing this, but these documents are wholly redacted. We don't see his full statements. But Kara Castronova has the declassified FBI file as well. She's one of our friends in the White House at Lindell TV. She does amazing work. And I'm proud to call her a colleague. Lindell TV writes, spies, sex, and secrets on Capitol Hill. Newly declassified FBI files just confirmed it. Swalwell admitted under question he did have sex with Christine Fang, a woman the Bureau believed was tied to China's Ministry of State Security. Her own parents were reportedly MSS officers. So this post goes on, but I think you'd rather hear from Kara directly. So let's go to Kara. She looks very animated there outside the West Wing, so let's take a look.
Spies, sex, secrets on Capitol Hill. And it's all real. Straight from an FBI file the Trump administration just declassified on Eric Swalwell, a suspected Chinese operative, a sitting congressman, an FBI codename so ridiculous even a soap opera writer would say, this can't be real, but it is. It's all right here in black and white, straight out of the Bureau's own files. Let's get into it. First, the FBI's nickname for Christine Fang, otherwise known as Fang, while they were secretly trying to recruit her as their own informant, Rusty Thumbs. Here is why the FBI wanted her as a source in the first place. The file says both of her parents were known officers in China's Ministry of State Security, the MSS. Spy parents allegedly raising a spy. Now, the main event. Swalwell told FBI agents that he and Fang had sex multiple times, from around 2012 all the way to March 2015. Swalwell never admitted this publicly, but his declassified FBI file just did it for him. A vivid excerpt straight out of that file. Picture this. It's late at night and Fang is banging on Eric Swalwell's apartment door. A mysterious third person lets her in and she winds up in bed with Swalwell. Swalwell is whacked on Ambien and tells the FBI he, quote, barely remembers what happened next, except that they hooked up and that she left a couple hours later. A former campaign staffer separately told the FBI that Fang once showed up at his door and made it very clear that she wasn't wearing any underwear. And it wasn't just her body that she was selling access with. The file quotes Fang telling one contact she could arrange a meeting with Swalwell for a $5,000 campaign contribution, and that an internship in his office would, quote, cost more. a literal price list for a sitting congressman's time and staff by a Chinese national. Here is where it gets even more serious. Fang got people paid as interns in Swalwell's campaign and his DC office, possible Chinese nationals, but that has not yet been confirmed. Swalwell's explanation to federal agents: he treated interns Fang vouched for as coming from a Chinese American civic group, so he didn't bother to put them through the normal vetting process. His words paraphrased: diversity is important, so I didn't ask any questions. One staffer even told the FBI that Fang implied she wanted citizenship rules waived for her friends' internships. So here's the question, America. Was Swalwell not vetting his own interns with access to his office, data, possible donor roles, and so much more because of some noble diversity principle, or because the woman vouching for them was also in his bed? And after all that, the DOJ dropped the investigation into Swalwell and never charged Fang. Not because there wasn't evidence, they say it was because she'd already fled to China. The DOJ official this case landed on, by the way, Public Integrity Section Chief Jack Smith. The same Jack Smith who'd go on to be the special counsel who prosecuted President Trump. Swalwell, for what it's worth, already stepped away from public life for now. He dropped his California governor bid and resigned from Congress back in April over a completely separate set of sexual misconduct allegations from other women, unrelated to Fang. But you have to wonder, is this a pattern? Real question. Is a lawmaker who can't manage his own impulses a national security threat? Should Congress have stricter rules given how exposed these guys clearly are? And why did Democrats run cover for Swalwell and allow him to remain on the House Intelligence Committee given his fatal flaw? And as for Eric Swalwell himself, past or permanent political timeout. Now that it has been revealed that he admitted sexual relations with Fang to the FBI, should he have been transparent and admitted that to his constituents instead of skirting around the question for close to a decade? And furthermore, was Fang so irresistible that Swalwell should get a pass? If a baseline IQ congressman from California can't resist having sex with an alleged Chinese spy, then can you imagine what other temptations might compromise other politicians? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Reporting for Lindell TV at the White House, I'm Kara Castronova.
Well done, Kara Castronova, outside the White House. So Swalwell admitted the sexual relationship to the federal agency, never admitted it to the voters who kept sending him back to Washington. FBI FD 302 dated 5/8/2015, Swalwell tells agents in his own words he did have physical relations with Fang on a handful of occasions, but never dated her or had a romantic relationship. He says March 2015 was the last time. Swalwell's own statement to the FBI. Not an FBI finding, but it was his own words. Swalwell, with his date of birth, interviewed at the Federal Bureau of Investigations in Oakland. San Francisco special agent in charge Blank was present during the investigation after being advised of the identity of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview. Nature of the interview. Swalwell provided the following information. He met her in the fall of 2012, an event recognizing the Chinese American community. The city of, Milpitas Planning Commissioner invited Swalwell to the event. Fang was seated next to Swalwell at the same table. Fang attended the event with the former mayor. Swalwell could not recall whether he and Fang sat down first. Fang is a striking individual and comfortable in social situations. Of course, she's been bred for that purpose. Not a citizen of the U.S., Swalwell believed that she is trying to obtain citizenship. Fang may have worked for Blank, the mayor of Blank. Blank has a private accounting practice. Swalwell did not know the origin of Fang's money and never discussed it with her. He assumed she or her family were independently wealthy. Swalwell had a drink with Fang a couple of weeks after they first met in 2012. He had physical relations with Fang on a handful of occasions, never dated or had romantic relationship. March 2015 was the last time Swalwell had physical relations with her. Swalwell considered their physical relations to be casual, but believed that Fang was interested in closer romantic relationship. Swalwell primarily communicated with Fang via text He has also spoken on the phone with Fang and exchanged emails, also used his personal Gmail account to communicate with her. Prior to the interview, he reviewed his personal Gmail account and found approximately 5 email exchanges, which he offered to provide to the interviewing agents. And the interns, Fang placed them in his campaign and his D.C. office, and Swalwell told the FBI he skipped the vetting process. His own words: came to the apartment twice, both occasions, probably before elected, said he barely remembers a late-night visit. He had taken Ambien. She did not have access to his apartment. Falwell came to the apartment twice. He does not remember having candles lit while she was there. One night, Fang came over late in the evening, started banging on the door. Swalwell let her in, and she and Swalwell hooked up. Fang left after a couple hours. Swalwell barely remembers the event because he had taken Ambien prior to Fang arriving. Swalwell takes Ambien to help him sleep. So he can still perform while on Ambien. I didn't even know that was the thing. Fang did not have access to the apartment. Swalwell stated that access to the country, said across the country, people wanted to volunteer and donate to your campaign. Then once they do, they ask for your help. Right after Swalwell was elected, he handled all the intern requests, told Swalwell he would be the bad guy when it came to telling people there were no internships available. Fang was unique because Swalwell saw Fang as connected to the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Association, and Swalwell viewed anyone that Fang put forward for an internship as coming from ARPA. A significant portion of Swalwell's constituents are Chinese American. Once or twice a week, people ask Swalwell for favors, therefore Fang's request did not stand out. In some cultures, people feel more free to request favors. This is especially true in the Chinese, Indian, and Pakistani cultures. Swalwell always communicates to his supporters and constituents that donations to his campaign are entirely separate from any association his office provides. Sure. Yeah. They all say that. $5,000 for a meeting with the congressman, an internship, she said, cost more. Serial number 160, FBI interview record, FD 302, continuation page, records a statement that Swalwell and Fang occasionally hooked up. It's cut off mid-sentence. This is the interview statement in the FBI report. Speaker attribution is unclear. So Swalwell thought Fang's perception of the wins might not be happy because they're Republicans. Swalwell's a Democrat, indicative of her sophistication and awareness of political issues. At some point before the dinner, Fang told Swalwell the dinner's host may encounter trouble with Wynn's management for hosting a politically related event. Swalwell viewed the event at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas as classic overpromise, underdeliver event. He said the event was a shit show, didn't handle it well, people didn't give as much as what Fang had promised, should have handled the reporting on the event more appropriately, was not known for good record keeping, and could be sloppy. Typically Blank handled all the campaign financial disclosures, and they would be sent to a consulting firm in D.C. to make sure the disclosures were accurate. Last name unknown, who reviewed Swalwell's disclosures in D.C. Fang was Swalwell's APARPA contact. The only difference between Fang and the other organizational contacts was that Swalwell and Fang occasionally hooked up, and Fang has a thing for him. That's what the document says right at the bottom. Let me see if I can pull that for you. If you can see it. Fang has a thing for him. That's the only thing that stood out. Her own parents were officers in the Chinese Ministry of State Security, according to the file. FBI knew who they were dealing with. For FBI 302-51-2015, witness had no first-hand knowledge of romantic or physical relationship between Fang and Swalwell. Says he heard secondhand Swalwell had physical relations. Same page, witness knew of no conduit contributions, no classified requests, and no internships for money. So here's more from the classified files that were just presented by the White House. Retribution's a bitch, dude. Blank had no first-hand knowledge of any romantic or physical relationship between Fang and Swalwell. However, had heard secondhand Swalwell had physical relations with Fang prior to Swalwell's election to Congress. Blank heard from blank, Swalwell's chief of staff, that Fang has shown up to Swalwell's door unannounced at least one occasion. Heard from blank, the blank that Fang showed up on Swalwell's door made it clear to Swalwell that she was not wearing any underwear. Blank did not know if blank and blank were referring to the same occasion. All these redactions. No conduit contributions related to the campaign. Strongly believe that Swalwell any instance in which Fang asked for or received any classified information from himself or anyone else in the campaign or official office. Well, when you're on Ambien in the middle of the night, I mean, who knows what that kind of pillow talk was, right? Okay, so continuing here. So how does this case look like and just evaporate? Well, look whose desk it landed on. Jack Smith, then chief of the Public Integrity Section. Swalwell is briefed at the Capitol on Fang, her connections to the redacted and Chinese intelligence service. 302 says Swalwell asked no questions. In local politics, a former Air China, he sees her in person once. He says she'd been in the campaign office but did not believe she was ever unattended there. So this is the source page, April 30th, 2015. Swalwell was provided a blank at the Capitol building, present for a briefing were Deputy Assistant Director Robert Jones, Special Agent in Charge, San Francisco, David Johnson, Unit Chief blank, Special Agent blank, and another blank. Swalwell was advised of the classified nature of the briefing. Swalwell was briefed regarding the intelligence cycle and methods by which foreign governments and their agents target politicians. It's like, oh, FBI's like, well, listen, guys. Listen, Eric, we got to tell you. See, there's a thing called a honeypot. And this is what they do. And you're not Pooh Bear, okay? But you are now, because your hand is in the honey jar. And it's probably other places as well. Okay. Swalwell was not asked any questions during the briefing. He did make the following voluntary statement, completely redacted. Fang is connected to Aparpa. Fang used to be a flight attendant. Swalwell sees Fang in person. Fang is active in local politics. Fang has been in the campaign office but did not believe she'd ever been unattended. Sure. The same Jack Smith who later came after Trump as special counsel. Fang was never charged. Swalwell told agents he had no contact with Fang since the FBI first briefed him and that no third parties passed him messages from her. His own statements to the FBI. He was told it would go to a grand jury in the Northern District of California. Swalwell's new contact has been very cautious of dealing with the Chinese and does not take many requests. In June of 2015, Swalwell met with APA members in Washington, D.C. At this meeting, a woman with APA told Swalwell that Fang had gone back to China. Blank told Swalwell the FBI had contacted blank and Swalwell's name came up. Blank told Swalwell that he blank reports to the FBI contact he has with Fang. Blank and blank told Swalwell the FBI had contacted them. Blank, the blank mayor, went to China and has a number of Chinese American interns. Fang would generally mention that Swalwell should go to China. At an election night party in November of 2014, Fang invited Swalwell's blank to China. Swalwell has had no contact with Fang since he first met with the FBI. Regarding this matter, Swalwell has not received any communications from Fang directly, nor have any third parties passed him messages. Swalwell was advised and acknowledged that the substance of his interview would be reported to a grand jury in the Northern District of California and was given the opportunity to amend or correct any of his statements. All items shown to Swalwell have been attached to 1A section of this file. So Democrats left him on the House Intelligence Committee the entire time. That was a choice, and somebody actually had to make that choice. The qualifier in the FBI's own 302 of the interview in 2015 of Swalwell, that's the 5-5 interview, Fang never asked for, and Swalwell never provided her any sensitive or classified documents or information while he's on Ambien. Same page also logs a $2,600 in-kind dinner contribution issue. So here we get into the campaign finance activity. Subsequent to the event, Blank issued a check to the wife to pay back some of the cost of the dinner. It exceeded the allowable donation limit. Swalwell later learned that the Wynn Hotel was not pleased with that fact, that a politically related dinner had been held at the hotel. Swalwell believed that the Blank displeasure may be related to the fact that he is a Republican and Swalwell a Democrat. Subsequent to the interview, Swalwell emailed Blank with additional information regarding the event. At the Blank, a copy of the email will be maintained in the portion of the email. Swalwell clarified that the wife's name is Blank and she lives Blank, and advised that she was a U.S. citizen, but Swalwell and his campaign knew that her husband was not a U.S. citizen, making the in-kind contribution of $2,600, paying for the dinner, and the campaign sent $2,600 check to cover additional food and beverage costs. Fang has never asked for, and Swalwell has never provided her any sensitive or classified documents or information. That's according to the, of course, testimony. He resigned from Congress in April over separate misconduct allegations from other women, different accusers, same pattern. 5/5/2015 from the FBI 302, he told agents he was not aware of, never discussed with Fang any internship given in exchange for cash, would not have participated. Fang barred from donating as a non-citizen, his account not an FBI finding. So here's the question that matters now. If a congressman from California can be compromised this easily, who else in that building is already bought? Fang never asked Swalwell what we were in his office working on in terms of policy. Same page. Swalwell asked agents what laws Fang may be breaking. So page 50 of the chronology, the first non-Swalwell voice in this entire file. And that witness told agents flat out they had no first-hand knowledge of any romantic or physical relationship. The only person putting Swalwell in a room with a suspected Chinese intelligence asset is Eric Swalwell. Jack Smith's desk, that's where the case landed, and nobody got charged. Not Fang, not Swalwell. And back in July, we showed you the Judiciary Committee's evidence that Smith went after 44 lawmakers' text messages. He had an appetite for that. He had none for this. So share these pages, not the headlines, because the headlines are already running past what the documents say. And that's how they get to call all of it a hoax later. So tell me in the comments what you make of page 50. The files are open now. The men who buried them are the ones sweating. And there are more pages coming out of that building every week. See, Swalwell walked because the case sat with Jack Smith, and the next batch of declassified files won't wait for a news cycle. So text White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network holds credentials in the White House press pool. And the reporters and the reports we pull straight out of that building hit your phone nightly, whether or not YouTube ever shows you this video. Now, some of you read and get angry. A few of you want an assignment. So text Signal to that very same number and enlist in the Next News Signal Corps. Real ranks, real missions, a command center, and a citizen's comm grid. Nobody in legacy media can switch off. So it's really interesting that we're getting all of this information. Now you might be asking yourself, why are we running on and on and on about this? It's because we now have exclusive insight into what really happened with Fang, what really happened with Eric Swalwell. And the character at the center of it all who decided to do nothing, Jack Smith, the same guy who went after Trump, went after all those congressmen's text messages, again, had no desire to go after a man who was sleeping with a communist spy from China, right? I mean, talk about two levels of justice. They just look the other way while they're sleeping with communist honeypots. Oh, but we're not done. We're going into our final chapter of this episode tonight, looking deeper into the FBI files that were released by the White House today. Certainly causing Eric Swalwell to take maybe a couple more Ambien than usual tonight. I don't think he's sleeping soundly. Or maybe he's just waiting for that knock on the door from Fang, declaring that she's not wearing any panties tonight and readying his candlelit interlude. Right? Let's get at it, shall we? Air Force One for the President of the People's Republic of China. That's what Christine Fang typed on her own resume and handed it out to an FBI undercover employee. 2 lines down on the same page. Fundraiser she hosted for Eric Swalwell. Page 26. That's where the Bureau writes the word suspected. The date will take you to now March 18th, 2013. That's the day the FBI opened the undercover operation into the orbit of a woman who was hosting fundraisers for a sitting congressman. Not a rumor, a dated page. And the Bureau's financial analysis alleges she orchestrated conduit contributions to hide a prohibited foreign national source. So here's what I'm putting on your screen tonight. The resume page, the assessment page, where the FBI writes the word suspected, and the witnesses in the same file who told agents they knew of no donations from Fang at all. Both sides, same file. So reading 400 pages of an FBI paper at 2 in the morning is how I learned my own tank was empty. And it wasn't willpower. Studies point to mitochondria as cellular batteries, the batteries that power everything, and when they drain, fatigue and slow healing follow. Red and near-infrared light therapy is one of the most well-researched tools out there. Studies show it helps cells produce more energy, reduces cellular level stress, and supports natural repair processes. Now, I dug into the science alongside health journalist Jonathan Otto before I ever plugged one in. Red Life is the company. They run 9 clinically studied wavelengths with dual chip technology, twice the power of standard devices, built to actually work. They're built like a tank. I actually own several devices. Go to myredlight.com/NNN, link in the description below. Use NNN Rep 25 for individual items, NNN Rep 30 for bundles. 30% off bundles, 25% off individual devices. Stock is limited. Now let's get back to that file, shall we? Her parents, page 16. That doesn't hedge on them at all, the way it hedges on her. The file classifies Fang's parents as known intelligence officers and says they stayed active in the campaign. So watch how carefully the document splits those 2 claims. I'm going to show you exactly where. So the FBI records, this is from the release today from the White House, chronological 0342SF. FBI EC dated 6/7/2013, San Francisco documentation developmental meeting with Rusty Thumbs. That's what they called her. Preliminary investigation initiated 2013, set to expire. Enclosure listed. Resume heavily redacted. Participants and subject names withheld. So So what you're looking at on your screen here is the developmental meeting that was taking place on 6/7 of 2013. The FBI filed names and names, and one of them is a fundraiser who bundled cash. Christine Fang's own resume in the file. Air China, May 2002, September 2009, served as flight attendant on Air Force One for the President of the People's Republic of China. That's how she billed herself. This is her resume, guys. This is the first time we're seeing Fang's resume from the declassified FBI file. It says it right there. I'm not kidding. Served as a flight attendant on Air Force One for the President of the People's Republic of China. Served as a purser for Boeing 747s and Airbus. Served approximately 5,000 hours in the air, flew 30 countries. Selective achievements, hosting fundraising events for Swalwell. Interned for the mayor of Fremont, Bill Harrison. Recognized achievements in leadership skills by Dianne Feinstein. Volunteered for the Hoobie Night at Silicon Valley event, concierge for California State Governor Jerry Brown and many VIP guests. Assisted the 40th anniversary of the ping pong diplomacy in San Francisco with the mayor of San Francisco, Edwin Lee. Torchbearer for the 9th California Chinese sports meetings, the largest Chinese sports meeting in Northern California. Pioneer Pride Award 2013 by California State University, East Bay. Well. Would you look at that? We got Fang's resume, guys. She wasn't just a bystander. Her own resume listed the events that she ran. Dianne Feinstein's name comes there. I mean, look at this. This is a who's who. The California political elite in Democrat circles. She wasn't just a bystander. Her own resume listed the events. Air China, flight attendant, Air Force One for the Communist China. So how does a Chinese intelligence asset end up inside a congressional campaign with a timeline exactly when the Bureau knew? FBI packet page 12, Christine Fang's own resume lists her as the founder and president of the Chinese Student Association at CSU, East Bay. Cites an award from the Chinese consulate in San Francisco, the best Chinese Student Association president of the West Coast, and also lists galas organized with Mayor Lee and First Lady of San Francisco. This is the leadership page. Nothing there about Panda Express or General Chow's chicken, but I bet you she could whip up some mean orange chicken, right? Okay, I kid. The Bureau knew in 2015 Swalwell got the defense briefing and stayed on the Intelligence Committee anyway. So 2013, based on the subsequent investigation, RT has suspected MSS ties in addition to both her parents being classified as known MSS intelligence officers. FBI adds she may be able to report on MSS influence campaigns, investigative assertion, not a finding of guilt. Based on the investigation, they do have ties, both of her parents being classified as known MSS intelligence officers. In addition, RT indicated her connection to the people of influence within the PRC and a willingness to introduce these contacts to UCE. So she was bragging about her influence within the Communist Party to an undercover FBI agent. Dude, that's just crazy. And the PRC government, coupled with their continuing contact with U.S. and local government officials, RT may be able to report on MSS influence campaigns directed at the U.S. government. Damn, this went deep. This is a lot deeper than I ever could have thought. While RT continues to exhibit certain narcissistic, egotistical traits, RT is responsive to tasking and will actively blank blank. However, it should be noted that any action of tasking RT agrees to may also need to fulfill her self-interest as well. RT. What is RT? Someone in the comments hit me up. What is that? RT. What does that mean? RT. So he says he did everything right the minute the FBI knocked. Oh, well, what about before? Bureau writes the current investigation indicates subject's parents are MSS. Same memo appears to be active in assisting Congressman Swalwell's campaign. This is just too funny. I can't believe this. This is wild. Oh, Rusty Thumbs, RT. Of course, Rusty Thumbs. There it is, right at the top. That was her code name. Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. FBI document. What's RT? It's Rusty Thumbs, Franchi. Okay. In San Francisco, California, a current investigation has indicated that Rusty Thumbs' parents are MSS intelligence officers, in addition to Rusty Thumbs personally having an MSS affiliation. Rusty Thumbs appeared amendable to accepting a contractor position within the undercover agent's company. Rusty Thumbs' responsibilities will entail conducting outreach to her contacts in China, mostly in government, and possibly the contract will be finalized at a follow-up meeting. The meeting consisted mostly of rapport building and assessment. Rusty Thumbs continues to be evasive regarding her previous education. Well, why did you be evasive? In addition, Rusty Thumbs continues to be inconsistent regarding her parents' retirement status because they're active spies. Rusty Thumbs also appears to still be active in assisting U.S. Congressman Swalwell's campaign. No security or CI incidents were noted before, during, or after the meeting. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on an unknown date in 2013, undercover agent met with Rusty Thumbs at a restaurant. As previously arranged, Rusty Thumbs was punctual and dressed in an almost business-like fashion. Rusty Thumbs was friendly and open throughout the meeting. Rusty Thumbs also appeared to act more professionally as compared to the previous meeting in Las Vegas. Rusty Thumbs appears to be impressed with the restaurant venue and proceeded to order the most expensive item on the menu. Rusty Thumbs provided a resume as requested. The undercover agent and Rusty Thumbs discussed the contractor role she would have within the UCE's company. Rusty Thumbs advised most of her contacts were within the Chinese government. Did she ever talk about that with Eric when their heads were on the pillow? Or okay, I'm just not going to go there. Given the undercover agent's wish to make more friends in China, that was the angle. I want to make more friends in China, says the agent. Oh, well, I have friends in the Communist Party. We'd love to meet you. Rusty Thumbs was willing to contact the individuals on their behalf. Rusty Thumbs was also amenable to try and invite the contacts to visit the U.S. under the sponsorship of the undercover agent. Hey, we'll bring these communist spies over. You can hang out with them. Oh, but you guys got to sponsor them. Talk about. That's how the investigation went down. Developing meeting memo on Rusty Thumbs as her government contacts meant that Rusty Thumbs may be able to report on influence campaigns. Agents rated her motivations as power in turn by money, assessment, and not proof. Assessment, not proof. So here it says she's motivated by power and in turn by money. Rusty Thumbs' involvement in political campaigns, student associations, community organizations appear to be avenues for Rusty Thumbs to gain recognition. RT, that's how they keep referring to it. Rusty Thumbs also considers being relied upon as an equivalent to being valuable in society. The appearance of luxury and fashionable dress also appears to be of importance. Based on this developmental meeting, Rusty Thumbs continues to be interested in a contractor position within the undercover agent's company. Given Rusty Thumbs' job description is somewhat ambiguous, it's a position that is well suited for her personality and goals. Rusty Thumbs, I can't believe I keep saying that, has placed a great emphasis on being relied upon, which equates to being valuable, which ultimately contributes to her happiness. The nature of this notional employment allows her to utilize her connections and may provide her with a sense of importance. Is that how it works? Kevin McCarthy pulled him from the intel and the left screen politics. The freshman 15. Synopsis is here. So this freshman 15 interim authority. So this is the $5,000 contribution. So it goes on to discuss the 2014 opening of the assessment, converting to the full investigation into the illegal campaign contributions, and a foreign national residing in the U.S. as the facilitator of the scheme to trade access to Swalwell and internships in his congressional office in return for campaign contributions. Well, didn't she also have a spy? Wasn't like chief of staff a spy too? And wasn't there the connection from the previous report or from her resume, where she was bragging about working with Feinstein? These people are all connected. It was the same op being run by the Chinese. They infiltrated Feinstein's office. They infiltrated Swalwell's office. Many of these contributions were made by foreign nationals and or utilized conduits in violation of federal law. And in 2 cases, Fang used conduits to conceal herself as a prohibited foreign national source in violation of different title statutes sections. Analysis of financial records demonstrated Fang orchestrated the conduit campaign at least twice, and 2 more times in 2014. The conduits traced to Fang herself, a foreign national, which make them a legal source of contributions. Fang told Blank she could arrange a meeting with Swalwell in exchange for $5,000 contribution to Swalwell's campaign. She also stated that she could arrange for an internship within the office, but that internship would cost even more. The whole scenario redacted. Of course, remember Nancy Pelosi defended him the whole way. Investigation revealed Fang, a Chinese foreign national, was the facilitator of the scheme to trade internships. Of course, Pelosi said there was nothing to see here. The FBI documents say the fundraisers were logged as an assets work product. The paper trail grows. Next, the intern Fang helped place inside the office. Swalwell said he was not aware of any campaign donations directly from Fang and never discussed contributions or any money passed through an intermediary. Swalwell not aware of campaign donations from Fang. Fang has not coordinated fundraising events, nor has she ever a formal host, although she did say she was on her resume. Swalwell recalled a large donor was introduced by Fang. Swalwell's campaign had inquired to the status and advised she's a U.S. person. Swalwell was told that they live in Blank. Another large owner of a winery in Sunol, California, a friend of Swalwell's, has known since his time as city council. It was rare for Swalwell to physically accept a donation check. Typically, a staffer set up a check-in or registration table, which donors would provide their donation at the information required to complete a donor card, name, address, employer at the end of a quarter. The campaign finance director is responsible for reviewing all the donations to find discrepancies, track down missing information. Witnesses say they're not aware of Fang ever providing any politicians any sort of consideration in exchange for their duties. Mayors, council members, and a whole bench cultivated, and Swalwell spent those same years calling President Trump a Russian agent. Never forget that. How many clips, how many interviews did we see Swalwell? He's a Russian agent. He's a Russian spy. Meanwhile, he's being handed personal checks. and getting knocks on the door in the middle of the night under Ambien. So, I mean, this just goes on and on and on. There's so much information. In a developmental meeting, an FBI undercover employee has Rusty Thumbs sign a contract and non-disclosure paid in cash. Agent's report says RT then told her father worked for the PRC government department overseeing Hong Kong government, her account recorded by the FBI. Another one. San Francisco Division requests authority for confidential human source to make a bona fide campaign contribution of $1,000 to Swalwell. Wow. They use a confidential human source to make a campaign contribution to Swalwell. No way. Bona fide campaign contribution is the memo. States DOJ Public Integrity Unit Richard Pilger concurred with the payment of this campaign contribution. Document is heavily redacted. The page does not identify the recipient, amount, or the date. The stonewall is bipartisan when it protects a member. Next, what the counterintelligence veterans say should have happened. Evidence log, FBI records list, the U.S. Asia Institute name badge reading Miss Fang Fang. She actually had a name tag at her U.S. Asia Institute name badge reading Miss Fang Fang, Congressman Eric Swalwell. That was recovered during a search from room G, master bedroom, gray box next to a dresser. She was walking around with name badges saying that she worked for Swalwell. FBI closing request for the operation codenamed Rusty Thumb states the case could be closed under administrative closing code because the investigation to date did not identify a criminal violation or a priority threat to national security. So those are the Bureau's own words out loud. Say them with me. Suspected, not confirmed, not charged. Suspected MSS ties on an investigative assertion page. Next to the resume line that Fang wrote about herself. And Eric Swalwell let her raise money for him anyway. So Eric Swalwell owes the American people a straight answer about the badge in this file. The U.S. Asia Institute exhibit with his name printed next to hers. And I want you be honest with me, because the file demands honesty. FBI suspicion is not a finding. An investigative allegation is not a conviction. A witness statement is not proof. And on page 26, the Bureau wrote that no further investigation was warranted. And that's what the record says. What the record also says is that a man who sat on the House Intelligence Committee let a woman with that resume into his fundraising world for years. Share this. And comment with a page that stopped you. Read it for yourself, because reading it yourself is the whole point around here. You see, Fang's file, it sat sealed for over a decade, Patriots. And that gap between what exists and what you're allowed to see is exactly what we close every single night with. So text White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network sits in the White House press pool. And what we pull out of that building lands on your phone that night, whether or not YouTube feels like showing it to you. Now, some of you read these files and get restless. Good. Well, text Signal to that same number, and you're in the Next News Signal Corps. Operators, assignments, and a comms grid that keeps this reporting alive no matter what this platform decides. So tomorrow, get in it and get in the room with us. Well, that is a wrap tonight. Thank you for joining us on this late edition of Between the Headlines. Oh, yes, we never sleep around here. Always doing something, always working, always investigating, always coming up with new angles to attack the fake news with so we can keep America great. And it's up to you to keep America great. The midterms are upon us. So make sure you get out and vote. Make sure you find your candidate. Make sure we preserve our lead in the House and the Senate. If we don't, it's over, folks. It's over. Just like this show. So once again, we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Next News Network. Keep an eye out for some interviews we've got lined up this week. They're going to be dropping. Some big names coming your way. And some new formats we're going to be experimenting with. So they'll be dropping on the channel when they do. Leave your comments. I'd love to get your take on it. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.